Hello, in this video we're going to talk about customizing the ZBrush interface. If you look at the top of the screen here, you see that I have an extra menu now called Sculpting. And within this menu I have controls like the draw size, focal shift, I have the different transpose, move, scale, and rotate modes, as well as turning the gizmo on and off. And I have a few other painting items here that I tend to use very often, as well as Z-add and Z-sub, or Z-add and RGB. Now I've set this to utilize a custom hotkey, Alt-S, and that will bring up that menu as a floating menu anywhere I am on screen. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to enable interface customization and how to create custom menus like this and assign them hotkeys. So let's get started. So to begin, by customizing the interface, we have to go to the Preferences menu. Under Preferences, you find Config. If you click Config, you'll find Enable Customize. If you turn on Enable Customize, you see the interface shift down a little bit. There's a gap up here at the top of the screen. It's a visual cue. That just lets you know that you're in interface customization mode. Now what we want to do is create a custom menu that sits here at the top of the screen. We're going to give it its own name, and we're going to create a menu called Sculpting. So to do that, I'll go to Preferences, down here, Customize UI, and I'm going to create a new menu. We're going to name this menu Sculpting. If I press Enter, you see that now appears at the top of the screen, but it's empty. So if we click the radial button, it'll dock it on the right-hand side of the screen, and now we're able to drag interface items into it. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to place my focal shift and draw size slider inside here. Now I could come here and drag them over, but watch what happens. It disappears from the interface because those are clones. Remember, those are not the original sliders. These are actually copies of what we find in the main menu up here. We talked about that in the interface overview video. If I mouse over this, any item in the interface, and press the control key, it'll give me a tooltip. And in that tooltip, at the very bottom, it tells you the tool path. So here I can see that this lives in Draw Focal Shift. So if I come over to the Draw menu, there's my Draw Size and Focal Shift. Now these are the parent sliders. These are the original sliders, and they cannot be removed from that menu. They can be copied out by Control-Shift clicking and dragging. So it will not remove it from its original place because these are the parent sliders, as I said. So going back to Draw, I'm going to take Focal Shift, hold down Control-Alt, click and drag, and then dock that in the Sculpting menu. And we can change their order just by Control-Alt clicking and dragging them. Now you remember, if we don't have Customize UI turned on, Control-Alt clicking on an item sets a hotkey. So we have to be in Customize UI for this to actually work. So we've got Draw Size and Focal Shift now in our Sculpting menu. Now let's put Z Intensity in, and that's under the Draw menu. You find it here, and then click and drag. Now I have Draw Size, Focal Shift, and Z Intensity sliders all available. Now underneath this, let's dock some buttons. I'd like to take the Move, Scale, and Rotate buttons, as well as the Draw pointer, and I want to dock those in the Sculpting menu. Now once again, we can't drag them from here, but if you hold the Control key, it'll tell you the path to the parent button. So if we go to Transform, you find it right there. Control-Alt, click and drag, and dock it right there. Go back and grab Move, Scale, and then Rotate. So now I have Draw Size, Focal Shift, Z Intensity, Draw Pointer, which of course if I turn that off and on, it'll take me out of edit mode. And then I'm going to go ahead and place a couple more items now. Let's place the Transform gizmo. So that lives under the Transform menu as well, so let's grab that. There we go, let's grab that and dock it here in the menu. And then we can reorder them. Now, if I were to leave Draw mode, go into say Move, Scale, or Rotate, I have access to that gizmo. So when we turn off the Draw pointer, then we are in Transpose mode. We're still in Edit, but we are in Transpose mode. So we have room here for some more items. We can grab active points. So there we see the path to that. We could place that in the menu, although that is always visible at the top of the screen, and it's not really a button that we have to press. So let's instead let's do our switch color button. So if I go to switch color, that's under color, switch color, and then Control, Shift, click and drag, Control, Alt, click and drag and dock it. And we'll do fill object as well, Control, Alt, click and drag. And while we're at it, let's place the RGB control there. So we see that lives under draw. So we can grab our Z-add sub or RGB. Let's grab all of those and place them here. We'll grab Z-add, grab, say, RGB, place it there. So now we've got a nice little menu here. Now what I'd like to do is create a sub-menu. I want to have a rollout menu like we have under the tool menu, where we've got, for example, the sub-menus here that you click and they unroll and give you more options. So to create a sub-menu, I'll go to Preferences. Under Custom UI, click Custom Subpalette. Control, Alt, click and drag. Dock that custom subpalette there. Now it's untitled, so if I were to Control, let's add something in there first. Let's go ahead and put Sculptris Pro mode inside there. Of course, don't drag it from here. Mouse over it, find the button path. That's under Stroke, Sculptris Pro, Stroke, Sculptris Pro, and Control, Alt, click and drag. Place that within that menu. Go to Stroke. Let's turn on Sculptris Pro mode so we can grab adaptive size. And let's go back here now and let's grab our subdivide size slider in there as well. Go to Stroke again and we'll grab our undivide size ratio in there as well. If you want to know what these do, watch the video that we have on Sculptris Pro mode. It's a great tool for sketching in Zbrush. It allows you to sketch and sculpt like you would in the Sculptris program. It's automatically tessellating as you work. Okay, so now we've got our main menu with our sub-menu here. Now what I'd like to do is name that. So close that menu and Control-Alt click on it, and then we'll name that Sculptris. That is now named as the Sculptris menu. Just Control-Alt click on it to give it a name. So now we've created our submenu. What I want to do is I want to hotkey it. To do that, I need to go to Preferences, go to Config, and turn off Enable Customize. Now, if I Control-Alt click on a menu item, instead of moving it around the interface, it allows me to set a hotkey. So go to Control-Alt click on Sculpting. It asks me for a hotkey. I'm just going to set that to Alt-S. Alt-S now opens that menu wherever I am on screen. So I can control my draw size, focal shift, click on Sculptris. You can open up the Sculptris submenu. So I can be zoomed in and working on my character. Let's turn our X symmetry on, turn off Sculptris Pro mode. Let's say I'm sculpting along and I press Alt-S and that brings up my menu right there with all of my sliders. Now you may find this very useful because the spacebar menu that I recommend throughout most of these videos is quite large. I think it's a little unwieldy at some points. There's probably more items in there than you need. So by creating a custom hotkey for Alt-S, I can have just those interface items that I want to use and I want to always have access to at a single hotkey. Now, if you want to save this as part of your interface, go to Preferences, Config, and click Store Config. That stores your current configuration, including that new menu item. Now, if you've got customized elements you want to get rid of, simply press Restore Standard UI, and that will return you to your standard user interface, removing any config changes that you may have made. If you want to save your UI, click Save UI, and that'll save a user interface file that you can then distribute amongst other artists or just have handy if you want to move to a different workstation and update your UI. I've created custom UI elements before on projects to share between different artists, so we can just have our own menus that apply to whatever project we happen to be working on with whatever tools that we're using repeatedly for those projects. So it's a very handy thing to be able to do. So that is how you create a custom menu and customize the ZBrush interface. Remember, to do it, you have to go to Preferences and turn on Enable Customize. And also remember, anytime any item in the ZBrush interface, you need to know where it lives. Hold down the Control key, and at the bottom of that manual page, it will give you the path to the parent button or slider. So you can easily find where anything lives in the interface. So we'll close that out. And let's go ahead and close the dock. Now you can see as I'm working, I get maximum screen real estate, and at any point I press my hotkey and it brings up that custom user interface with all of my favorite elements docked inside. So hopefully you found this helpful, and perhaps you can go forward now and customize your interface and further streamline your ZBrush experience and make it more efficient for you to work and bring all your favorite tools right to your fingertips. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.